episode 43 of the podcast. Do some dogs misbehave or take advantage of groomers that are too nice or too delicate, or is that just a story? Find out this week. You're listening to the Creating Great Grooming Dogs podcast. I'm Chrissy Neumeier-Smith. I'm a certified professional groomer, certified behavior consultant for canines, certified professional dog trainer, and the owner of Happy Critters in Nashua, New Hampshire. And this, my friends and colleagues, is where grooming and training meet. I want to apologize a little bit about the sound quality on this episode. I'm actually coming from a campground, and this is the second time I've recorded this, and it just got lost to the internet. I'm not using the regular equipment, and I'm kind of winging it out in a campground. There might be some background noise. It might be a little crazy, but I hope that the sound quality is good enough for you to be able to hear me. Everybody have a nice week. I got a great question this week. So, do you think that some dogs misbehave or take advantage of groomers that are too nice or too delicate, or is that just a story? So, thank you, David, for sending the question, because there's so much to unpack here. It's a really common question. I love that David used quotes around the labels. So, you guys, of course, can't see that, but he used quotes around words like misbehave, take advantage of, too nice, too delicate. Those are all labels. And what I try to do here a lot is try to help us all see past the labels and look at the behavior. So what do those behaviors look like? What do we see? What do we feel? What do we hear? So for example, misbehave. Is that a dog who's trying to spin around on the table so that they can lick you and climb up on you? Is it a dog who's growling with raised hackles or showing teeth? Is it a dog who flattens on the table and shakes with their tail tucked under their legs? There are so many different behaviors that could be labeled misbehaving. And that I want you to always try to take a moment to describe what that dog's body is doing, because that's going to help us understand if that dog is misbehaving, which version. Because each of those examples, right, the dog that's being silly, the dog that's being aggressive, or the dog that's being frightened, would be handled differently. Of course, different for every individual also. Now, taking advantage of, that's a neat label too. Now we're talking about the behavior between the animal and the human. Now we're looking at a team effort. That's kind of neat, right? I'm going to geek out on that. What do we observe when we look at the way the dog and the human are working together? And that may be one person seeing a dog who's being very silly, jumpy, and kissy with a human who's being calm and gentle, and wondering how that interaction is working. So before we make a judgment call on whether that dog is taking advantage of, or if that groomer is too nice, I want you to be thinking, is that groomer making progress? Did it help? Is the behavior increasing, decreasing, or staying the same? Because that's how we know if what we're doing is working. So one person may be looking at another groomer and thinking, that groomer's being really calm in an attempt to calm the dog down, and then ask if it's working. Another groomer may be saying, I would have been stern with that dog, and that's different. So we have some background noise because I'm at a campground. I posted earlier that I'm having trouble getting my episode up, right? So when I hear things like take advantage of, I think it's through the eyes of someone who is either accustomed to using more of a punishment to stop a behavior, or who's used to being a little bit stern, or someone who is observing a dog's behavior staying the same or becoming worse. So for us to be able to differentiate between those things, we have to look at the behavior. So we have to be able to, for ourselves, when we're the groomer, look at, is this behavior getting better, worse, or staying the same, so that I can adjust what I'm doing and make progress. Because the dog's not going to make progress if I'm not helping them make progress. And that's really where training kind of comes in on the grooming table, that we need to be able to make some sort of progress. So too nice or too delicate, those are labels too, right? What does that sound like? What does that look like? And often that's a sound. I want you to think about someone who's being too nice. Is very subjective, of course. It's a label. That's us looking in, thinking, I would do it differently. But often, that's just the way they're talking. Their hands are doing the same exact things that any other groomer's hands would be doing. But the difference between shh, be still, and be still are very different. Sometimes we're just hearing something different and perceiving that it's quite different from what we do. So the original question, do you think some dogs misbehave or take advantage of groomers that are too nice or too delicate? I'm going to say no. No, because I think that the way a dog behaves is based on the way that dog perceives this whole interaction. And if they feel like they're taking advantage of a groomer, it means that that groomer's interaction with that dog is not effective for that particular dog, right? And it's not about being too nice or too delicate, because being too firm has its fallouts too. I will tell you, one of my guys, if you were to tell him, hey, knock it off, I think he'd flatten on the floor, and you'd have to spend an hour trying to soothe him again. Like, oh, it's okay, buddy. Like he's super, super sensitive, and he doesn't hear that a lot. So in the next part, we're going to talk a little bit about what these dogs are hearing at home, because that makes a big difference too. If you're enjoying my podcast, please remember to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes. This topic also leads to the topic of observing our owners. I want you to watch the way that an owner interacts with their dog, and if the dog listens to the owner, follows instructions, knows some instructions, like if the owner actually asks for things that the dog then performs. A groomer who is very quiet can be very confusing for a dog who lives around a loud owner. So to look at yourself, the way that you handle things. What does your dog live with from day to day, right? Ask yourself, what does this dog on my table, this other dog that I don't own, live with from day to day? What's the dog's experience dealing with people? What is the culture at home? Now, that could mean the owner's actual culture, ethnicity, language, but it could also mean a super calm household, a loud and busy household, a very structured little doggy life, right? That's another type of household. So sometimes we have what I call the Tarzan voice. Let me tell you about the Tarzan voice. As a trainer, I see it a lot, and this is something a lot of owners do. My hubby used to do it, and it goes something like this. A person is speaking normally to another person and then turns to the dog and changes their tone completely, right? So they're like, oh, okay, and what should I tell him? Oh, all right, I'm going to tell him sit. Okay, and then they turn to the dog and they're like, Spot, sit. And I'm like, wow, what the heck? Right? Their dog voice is entirely different. And it's really common, right? So I think it also goes back to the days of teaching dogs commands. Like I prefer to use the word cue, partly to get people out of the habit of command, right? They know a little bit about training and that they know it's important for a dog to obey commands. So they turn into a drill sergeant, right? They start doing this kind of military version of obey commands. And people are entirely unaware that they're doing it. I usually video them and show them that they're doing this. It's like, if you want your dog to listen with a whisper, you have to train him with a whisper too, right? So I want my dog to listen if I bellow out a sit, right? But I also want to be able to whisper, hey, sit, good job. So sometimes what we have is a dog who is completely having this total culture clash. They don't understand what anything is happening. They're like, why is this person acting so weird? They're not using the dog voice, so I don't need to listen. So sometimes when we hear that a groomer is being too nice or perceived as too soft, or is being taken advantage of, we may be using words the dog is familiar with, but they aren't used to someone being soft-spoken. And to them, people talking in that tone is just background noise. That never means anything for the dog. Right? She's using her people voice. That's not the way we talk to dogs at my house. I don't understand what she's talking about. So I want you to be thinking about the tones that animals are hearing at home, right? So here's a question I get asked once in a while. Chrissy, do you ever just yell at a dog? Don't you ever just turn to using a solid knock it off, right? Now, I want you guys to think about the things that I've presented so far, right? And please don't throw me out of the positive training camp. But if my softness isn't working, if my normal demeanor isn't reaching this dog, sometimes I will do an owner impression, right? Like I want you to think about, we've observed the dog and the owner relationship. And if it's a loud talking, stern talking, Tarzan voice kind of a family, I will copy the owners and do an owner impersonation, right? An example might be Sparky, which I would never do on my own. That's not the way I talk to dogs. But if that's what he hears at home, then that's the culture he is used to. They don't actually know English. They really don't. They catch on to some words. They catch on to some phrases. I will use an example. I'm really proud of myself, actually, that I haven't dipped into a full-on New England accent during my podcast. But like, if I'm at home and I tell my dogs, our car, there's definitely, if I said our car, they'd be like, nope, that doesn't sound anything like what we know. Like, they would just give me a blank stare. It's our car, Like, sometimes it's even just the inflection and the way that we say things. Another example of inflections and the way people say things. I teach my dogs give. We're playing and stuff. I stop moving the toy and just whisper, give. But I also have to practice it for the way other people do it. Even if it sounds like nails on a chalkboard to me when they like pull on the toy and say, give. No, give it. So I practice that because I know that's what my dogs are going to run into if we have friends over, right? That's friends and family come over and they're like, oh, I love playing ball with dogs. Give. So I just teach them about that too. So sometimes I might bellow out a knock it off if I have observed that that is the culture this dog lives in. That's the way the owner talks to the dog, and the dog understands it and follows instructions when the owner does it. Now, if this is just an owner who just yells all the time, then that dog isn't understanding, and I don't need to pretend to be that owner. But for some dogs, that's the beginning. That does not mean I do it forever. That's to bridge the gap between what the dog is used to and the way that I interact with them, right? I'm very individual about it. I'm very mindful about using an owner impersonation as a tool. It's not a knee-jerk reaction for me. It's not like I say, well, maybe I'll try a good yell, right? It's after observing that the owner can do it. The owner has taught the dog with this particular voice, and then teach the dog, by the way, I like to do things quietly. Now, sometimes it may feel like playing good cop, bad cop. Sometimes it may feel like, oh, well, okay, now I'm going to bellow it out. And the dog looks at you like, oh, you were freaking serious. I had no idea you were serious. So, you have to backtrack and go, all right, yeah. Now that you know I'm serious, could you please listen to my nice, calm voice? But it's all about what this dog is used to. What this dog is used to hearing, what this dog is used to for interactions. Does this dog know anything more than sit and come, paw, right? Like for a lot of dogs, they've got 3 things they know. So you can go ahead and adjust, like, okay, I'm not going to expect you to know anything and just try to teach you on my table. Like, get you used to some of the things that I do. So the weekly action step this week is to figure out what style you use when you're talking with dogs. And be thinking about observing your owners more while they're dropping their dogs off or while you're around them with their dogs, the way they interact together. And be thinking about the kind of culture that dog is accustomed to, the way that dog is used to human interaction. If you'd like to talk to me, you can find me through my grooming and training business, happycrittersdogtraining.com, my email, chrissy@happycritters.net, and through the Creating Great Grooming Dogs Facebook page. And we have these awesome devices in our pockets that allow us to do live video with each other. I can help you with the dog on your table. We can set up live lessons, and you may be surprised at how much we can get accomplished together via video. If you're ready to go beyond the podcast, and I hope you do, I've made it really easy for you. If you go to creatinggreatgroomingdogs.com and click on your next step, you'll see all of the options. There's the Scholar Lounge community, there's the Modern Grooming Professional certification, there's Master Canine Stylist and Professional Canine Stylist diploma testings, there's the Behavior Lab for coaching and private one-on-one sessions with me, and of course, the Master Groomer Behavior Specialist program. So go to creatinggreatgroomingdogs.com and click on your next step.